Surviving Sister Wives contains adult content that may not be suitable for Latter-day Saints or sinners. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Sister Wives.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and welcome back to our dramatic reading of Robin's #1 New York Times bestseller, Becoming Sister Wives. We're on Chapter 2, Janelle and Kody.
This is part of the matrimony part of the book still. The first segment in the series section is very enlightening, I think, this time around. There are a few parts that I forgot about, that I didn't realize with Janelle and Kody. Mostly how quick their courtship was, which now going back to Janelle talking about how if her courtship had been a little bit longer with Kody, she probably wouldn't have married him.
A little bit longer. I think that was an understatement, girl.
I think she said a year in the season 19 tell. If it had been a year, she wouldn't have made it. We weren't even close to a year. So I don't know where she got that from, where it was going to take her a year to realize her mistake.
No, I have yogurts in the refrigerator that have an expiration date longer than they courted for.
So it's concerning.
Look, I know last week I said that Meri's section was pathetic. For a minute, I thought depressing, but same.
Thanks for noticing.
Janelle's section to me was disappointing. That would be my key word for Janelle and Kody's courtship. Just a big disappointment, this entire relationship. And I'm disappointed in her reading about it.
Well, let's get into it here. We're learning about Janelle's upbringing, her backstory.
One of the things that gets talked about quite a bit is the absence of her father. And she talks about how her father passed away when she was really little, and then her mom remarried. She was only 2 years old. And the man who became her stepfather, not real involved.
She was referring to him as not a hands-on father. He was very distant and emotionally unavailable. Who does that sound like? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it does.
Is that ringing any bells?
You know what else that made me think about? Maybe when Robin was coming into the family and Kody was spending all of this time with Dana Brianna, that Janelle perhaps was very understanding of this because she has a stepfather who I guess maybe wasn't interested in either generally just children or not interested in raising someone else's children.
I think parentification is a very important aspect of Janelle. Janelle always knew that she was going to have lots of kids. She always wanted that, desired that, but she seemed to be struggling in finding a partner who would be able to deliver on these notions that she had of a exemplary father figure to have.
But her first relationship, she's in high school. She meets Adam, aka Meri's older brother.
Spoiler alert.
And they very quickly get married.
I forgot how short this marriage was because I, for some reason, thought that they had spent more time together and that was how she knew Meri and Kody. They kind of knew each other for a little bit longer because of that relationship, that direct connection where she was Meri's sister-in-law. But that's not really the case here. She was talking about Adam had moved out within like 6 months, I think, of them getting married.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because she mentioned that they had problems right from the start. And that sounds a little bit like Meri and Kody's relationship.
Problems from the start. The realization that they weren't spiritually, emotionally, or romantically compatible. So not compatible in pretty much any way.
No, and she really wasn't into him. She was more interested in his family. Maybe not so much Meri, but I guess the rest of them. Aside from Meri and Adam, everyone else is getting a lot of nice words said about them. Very complimentary, nice people.
There's the novelty.
Enjoy their company.
Yeah, Janelle enjoyed having the relationship with these people, so then that way she could say, hey, my in-laws are polygamous.
What do you think about her claiming that she grew up LDS, but she had no knowledge that polygamy was actually a way of life that still existed?
Well, it was like a taboo thing, or it was like this back in the olden days sort of thing, but a lot of the distancing in the LDS church had already taken place for the most part there. I think they stopped supporting that officially right around the 1892 mark, probably. So a little before Janelle's time.
Yeah, but you live in Utah. You're growing up LDS. And you've never heard of Polygamous?
Well, I think
aside
she's
from
heard.
like far off in the past.
Yeah, I think she's heard of it, but not as like, oh, people do that now, still, today. So it was kind of this abstract idea for her that people still practice polygamy today. I like that she mentioned they didn't live behind closed doors or practice any strange customs. That was a very specific call out, especially for don't live behind closed doors. Well, I mean, in some ways, but there's also this facade. I think this was something that we noticed reading through the Kody and Meri segment, where we're having multiple people who are mentioning that Kody, once you get to know him, once you married him, and then Cody's true colors came out, he's not the person that I thought he was. It's a who the bleep did I marry sort of reaction that happens for several people. And that just makes me feel like you're living a facade. There's kind of this element of deception that's just based in your everyday life where you have to project as a happy, successful, independent, what else do we want to say? Like
all the positive adjectives. There's nothing
good
wrong.
Stuff. There's
all the good, no bad.
Happy, shiny people syndrome that's happening here. So then you fall in love with not the man, but the idea of the man.
But we haven't met the man yet. How close was this relationship with Kody and Meri? Like, when we're looking back at Janelle having a relationship with Adam, doesn't seem like there was a whole lot going on there. Like, she knew of Meri. She had been around when Meri was around, but hadn't even met Kody.
Well, I liked that it was the novelty that drew Janelle to Meri and Kody. The only reason she was really hanging out with them was because they were polygamous, and that was interesting to her. And she was using them as a conversation piece for her other friends that she would talk about. She would brag to other people that she knows polygamists. So watch out, LDS folks. I know polygamists. I have polygamous friends. Not that Kody was interesting and that Meri was fun to get along with and cool to hang out with. No. It was mostly just because it's nice. It's
they were my party story.
A feather in my cap. But there is this community. There's like this longing for community that's happening too. It seems like that was a big reason why Meri was interested in getting into polygamy. And then Janelle mentioned too that it seemed like their group was very close-knit and inviting. So she was talking about being welcomed into these different church events that they were doing and religious things that they were involved in. So I guess that's the other basis of their relationship here, is that maybe Janelle was missing on some of that community, some of that friendship aspect or something.
Doesn't that start to cross into cult
That's
behavior, though?
Cultish, cult-like is the basis. We're laying the groundwork here. We're finding our vulnerable people.
All of your friends are now part of this group. And if you were to not hang out with us anymore, you would go back to having no one and nothing.
And I think there's an interesting part of this with the religion, too, where Janelle seeing, oh, they're very open and inviting of me to join them. But if I invited them to my LDS gatherings, people would be very upset by that. They don't like, this is a bad look for LDS. So maybe that's the other flip side of it, too. Janelle seems to be, she was mentioning how her mom kind of knows the mentality of Janelle, where Janelle's the type of person where if you tell her no, she's going to turn around and go ahead and do it now because you've told her no. So she does seem to have kind of this rebellious
Oh, you think she's a rebel, huh?
A little rebel without a cause here, but she has a cause. She's seeing the acceptance, and then it's illuminating kind of a hypocrisy that she's noticing in her own religion right now, too.
She finally gets to meet Kody. Not really the lightning bolt moment that the other wives have described.
The strangest feeling washed over me. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a lightning bolt. That still sounds like a mystery. That feels like an omen, is what it feels like. Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing?
She doesn't really describe much else. Just it felt like she had remembered something that she had forgotten.
The other part that I like here, too, is that she called out, I didn't know how to handle that, so I packed it away and made a mental note to deal with it later, which I think that's 90% of her marriage with Kody, that you could pretty much sum up in that sentence right there.
Well, she's still going through a divorce at this point. Things with Adam went down the shitter real quick. And this was odd. So they're not divorced. They're in the middle of getting a divorce. And Meri and Kody are getting married. So Adam can't find anyone else to be his date for this wedding, so they go together? Is that what happened?
The invite said +1. So
no,
I
the invite said Mr. and Mrs. Barber, not Adam Barber +1.
Oh, okay, right. So they are both obligated to attend with each other now.
We're just adhering to etiquette.
That's what it becomes. So that brought to mind for me as well, Janelle was there for the musical bread serenade that happened in person at that gymnasium when Kody sang his heart out to Meri.
And she thought to herself, I would like to replicate this in my own life one day. I would like to marry this man, the one on stage performing right now.
No, I think at this point she said, I never imagined that one day I would join their family. That was at their wedding. That was the thought that she had. Never at that point
didn't cross my mind
would
at all.
Not think about Kody as a romantic partner in any way, shape, or form, would not consider joining their family.
But she is going to still cozy up with Meri's family because even though she gets divorced, I guess they chose her in the divorce. They got rid of Adam.
I thought that was weird too.
He kind of becomes a little estranged from them.
He lost touch with Janelle, spent very little time with his family, but Janelle stayed in touch with his family.
Not just stayed in touch. They're like, hey, girl, what are you doing Friday night? You want to come hang out? Do you want to come over for Thanksgiving?
Are you doing good? We got to find you a husband. Like, maybe overstepping. Like, this isn't really the relationship that you'd expect from like an ex-in-law side of the family.
Doesn't that just add to the weirdness of what eventually happens? Or maybe it explains it.
It only gets weirder from here.
I would imagine Meri's family was very supportive of the idea of Janelle becoming Meri's sister wife, just so they could keep her in the family officially.
They keep it in the family. They definitely do. Kody and Janelle make sure to keep it in the family. Because then we start getting Kody's side of the story here when he's reminiscing back. Remember just last chapter when he was talking about that higher calling to polygamy when his mom was telling him about it? He knew it was something that he needed to do when he was young. He's still vivacious. He has the energy to take on these additional wives because Kody also didn't think that he should or could bring other people's children into his life and merge his family with someone else's. So we make some exceptions later on down the road.
Saying that's an excerpt that probably should be quoted at a tell-all at some point.
Yeah, because I don't know if Robin read this part.
Well, he made sure to clarify at the time. He has since changed his views on this, but should he have, or were you really just not capable of being able to balance all of these relationships?
Maybe that was a good place to be and to operate from for you, knowing your capabilities and your capacity for what you're trying to involve yourself in here.
But is that supposed to be his rationale as to why he pursued Janelle? Technically a divorcee, but no children, so that's a green light.
Adam doesn't really show up to the family events anymore, so I don't think it'll be too awkward. We kind of booted him out of here, so...
And if Kody has his way, he'll get rid of Meri. He'll run her off at some point. They kind of just stay friends with Janelle because she's always around. So they're having pizza nights with her.
And Meri and Janelle are forming a friendship of their own.
She doesn't talk about the friendship very much.
That didn't seem like a big part of this.
No.
So friendship, I think that's a stretch. They had interactions that were independent of Meri's brother Adam being involved.
Well, and we know Meri is not capable of making friends on her own. So it has to be someone who comes into her life through something like a relative marrying another person. And that's how we ended up with Janelle.
It's people who are forced into her orbit.
They're friends by proximity.
And now she's spending a lot of time with Janelle. They're friending it up, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, kind of.
Doesn't it seem very casual, though? So they're hanging out a little bit after work, but also Kody is coming to Janelle's work because he's unemployed and he is seeking some type of position.
Whoa. Not unemployed. I hadn't settled on a logical career path at that point. It's different.
I love the idea of Janelle working at an employment agency.
doling out these jobs.
Just reading resumes, judging people.
It's a good place to be. Yeah, that's a good spot. Because Janelle's always been career-oriented. Yes, we know this. She is a career woman.
I'm pretty sure he married her because she helped him get his first full-time job in sales.
I think that he saw these elements in Janelle of the security, the career-minded, the job-oriented. It was not something that was happening. Kody and Meri were living in this fantasy world of carefree existence, bopping from part-time job to part-time job, quitting on a whim to go travel for 2 weeks and sleep in a car. And I don't know what they were doing.
They made it sound very fun, but it sounded very dull.
It wasn't planned. There was nothing planned. They had no plans. So they need someone with a little bit more structure in their life to kind of
make them become adults?
Whip them into shape in some ways, yes.
So maybe instead of saying, Janelle should have married a guy like me, it should be, I should be more like Janelle. Maybe we could have looked at Janelle as like an aspiration for the future of also being fully employed people who are responsible.
I thought it was very telling that Kody's immediate reaction to Janelle's issues with dating was that he's the solution to Janelle's problems. Obviously, you're having trouble finding a man. You found one, Janelle.
Okay, her complaint was that all these other guys are really immature. And he thought, oh, well, I'll fix that for you.
I am everything you want. I am everything you need. I'm everything inside of you that you wish you could be.
You never know what's going to happen on the pod.
I think that was pretty rich. Yeah, that he is the answer to the dating dilemma that Janelle is faced with when he is unemployed currently, asking her to help him find a job.
And he and Meri also didn't have any place to stay because later on they say they're renting her old house.
Yeah, they're just...
She's already done you a really big favor.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you have a FICO score that you could present? Do you have anything about... That's why she needs you to get a job. That's why she's helping you. You need to pay your rent.
You owe her money at this point. Yeah, so she needs to make sure that you are gainfully employed. Obviously, yes. It's in her best interest.
His new plan is just to marry the landlord. That's how we're going to get around the bills.
She has property. I'm kind of into it. I'm open to it.
Maybe you and I should consider you and me. Man, he's really suave.
How do you say that?
The pickup lines, huh?
How do you just say that to someone at a platonic lunch meeting? Because that's what he was describing this
outside of Janelle's office. It's not a romantic little date.
It wasn't a date. It was a thank you for getting me a job, swinging by your office to pick up a check. Hey, how's it going? You want to grab a bite to eat?
Sure, you owe me rent and lunch.
Just put it on my tab, I guess.
She probably paid.
You think she got creative in the ways that he was able to pay off that tab?
Oh.
They had a chaste courtship.
Oh, not yet. They just made up for it years later.
Yeah. Oh, I love Janelle's immediate reaction to this, too, because obviously Kody pitching the idea that Janelle should marry him and that he's the answer that she's been looking for, she immediately laughed that off, which we've seen her do several times, so we know exactly how that would have played out.
Oh, you can all imagine the laugh. A big old belly laugh.
Did not give it a second thought.
But then she gets invited up to the ranch.
Kody and Meri had moved to Montana. They're spending some time at Kody's dad's ranch in Wyoming. We got ranches to go to. You know Janelle can't say no to a vacant property, so she is all about it.
She had to see the land.
I got to come check it out.
And now her mom finds out that she's got this little plan that she's going to go up there and hang out with these weird polygamists for the weekend. There's no way I'm letting you do that alone.
Red flags. And so she's going to not outright tell Janelle no. What she's going to do is she's going to invite herself to accompany Janelle so that way she can make sure that Janelle doesn't get brainwashed, swept up into this family, to lose contact with the rest of the family where they never see or hear from her again. She has to make sure that that doesn't happen to Janelle.
And she's going to do that by making sure she marries whatever man is currently looking for another wife.
I volunteer as tribute, is kind of the strategy that goes into play here, where they can't scoop up Janelle into the cult here because they're already taking her.
We need to learn more about this because they glaze over it a lot of the time. And we don't hear a ton about Cheryl and Winn's courtship.
Instant chemistry. That's
How
it.
do you go from having the mindset that these people, I need to protect my daughter from them, to actually, I think I would like to be the third sister wife in this family?
It's quite a jump. And what was that? The matter of like a weekend? A 1 weekend trip?
Janelle says not long after our trip, they were married. So this is a weekend trip.
They started their courtship basically within that weekend or immediately on her departure there. And then not long after, they were married. Was that her mom's last-ditch effort where she was like, please don't marry Kody. He's your brother now. Was that...
She was trying to put some roadblocks in place.
She was trying to deter as best she could without telling Janelle no, because she knew if she said you're not allowed to do that or you really shouldn't do that, she absolutely was going to double down and do that.
It did not make it weird enough for Janelle to stop talking to Meri and Kody.
If anything, she's more into it now. So we've created a monster at this point.
There's a whole portion of the next paragraph where she talks about how she learned about how the women in polygamy are incredibly strong and that you have to be really independent to live this lifestyle. And that was very attractive to her.
That was what was so amazing. Yeah, the women were so strong and independent. The men had great character. Strong in the faith, great character.
I'm kind of worried that this hyper independence that Janelle exhibits is a sign of some undealt with trauma, and that perhaps that's why this lifestyle was so appealing to her. That was something she was naturally inclined to begin with.
Well, the flip side of hyper independence means that you don't depend on anyone else, meaning that you're incapable of that level of vulnerability or trust, or there's just like the basic premise of dependency or what can be seen as dependency there. Other negative things that could probably come from that too is there's like an inflated vision of yourself where then you're not properly assigning the cause of your independence. There are other support systems or things or people that are involved in that too, but no, it's me. I'm doing everything because it's me. I'm so independent. You can get this inflated idea of yourself too as part of that. She just sees that as character development.
Yeah, just maybe if we had gone to therapy, we could have worked through that and maybe would have ended up taking a different path instead of deciding to investigate more about their faith and deciding that you probably wanted to turn to fundamentalism.
She views it as this counterculture thing. It makes you stronger because you're going against all of these other things that people have told you are not practical. It's not going to work. It's bad. It's this, it's that. So she's trying to separate herself from the herd and stand out above the rest, because it's either you forge through that and you get stronger and you stand up on your own and you make your way through it, or you kind of fall by the wayside and that's it.
I think that's funny how we have her talking about counterculture and almost like she has this rebellious spirit about her. But then when you look at how she approaches love, it's very pragmatic and practical. Not what you would expect from a counterculture type person. Or maybe it is. We're rejecting the idea of love.
Yeah,
we
the
don't
romantic
need love
love
and romance. We're just going to marry this person who fits within these boxes that I've defined.
Good dad. I think that was it. That was really the only box, and she just needed to make sure that that one was checked, and that was pretty much all she cared about. The rest will sort of fall in line as needed.
I don't understand the argument, though, about marrying Kody because she thought that he would be a good dad. The only time that she saw him interact with children, they were children on the ranch, other people's kids. Why would you not marry a guy who already has his own children if you wanted to get an idea of how they're going to be as a father, because that's very important to you?
I think she was just basing it off of, seeing those interactions with other children in family settings.
I could be nice to some kids for 15 minutes.
Well, I think, again, falling in love with the idea of a man, not the actual man.
The whole time I'm thinking to myself, does Meri even know what's going on? Because Kody's into Janelle, but it doesn't sound like he really disclosed that to Meri, at least not at the beginning of this.
Yeah, I would like to find out more about what Meri's thoughts were at this point in time.
Was she completely in the dark? Because Janelle shows up later on at Winn's ranch with another guy.
Well, I think that's inappropriate for Kody to be having that lunch conversation with Janelle and suggesting that she think about Meri and Kody in so many words. But then did you have that conversation with Meri before you pitched that idea to Janelle to start pondering?
I don't think so, because on page 39, he talks about this other person that Janelle showed up with and how he's theorizing to Meri that Janelle's just getting in her own way. She just doesn't want to let herself have what she truly wants. And then says, I'm not sure Meri quite understood what I was hinting at.
So you weren't being direct. You weren't being open and communicating about what your intentions were. You're getting worked up because Janelle brought another dude to the ranch to visit. So now you're getting jealous.
If I'm Meri, that would suck.
Kody's already elevating this, though, where he's putting destiny on this. This is, we are meant to be together. Kody and Janelle, it's only a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. I would really like to get Meri's take on that because I don't know if she was on board at this point. It didn't seem like it.
Janelle's not even on board.
Absolutely not.
She's looking at herself and thinking, I'm 22. I've already had a failed marriage. I don't really think I know myself well enough to get involved in another serious relationship yet.
So this is when Janelle goes on her little spirit journey. She's got some self-exploration that she's going to do. Plus, she was only 22 at the time.
She looks so much like Taylor Swift.
She looks like little baby Taylor Swift.
She
doesn't
does
she?
when she's young, yeah.
She really does.
This whole story makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, I thought it was going to give you ideas because she was talking about how bad she wanted to travel. She wanted to get out of her town, away from familiar surroundings. She wanted to buy a Jeep, get a dog, drive off to Colorado, and live in the mountains.
She probably should have done that.
That would have been a whole other show, I guess, that we could have watched. Just Janelle off in the mountains in Colorado.
She's on Live Off the Grid.
She was talking about mountain men and stuff, the mountain man movement. She didn't get directly involved in that, but she was adjacent. It was right around there.
Instead, she decides she's going to buy a teepee, quit her job, and hang out on Winn's ranch.
Yeah, I think the official goal was to camp in my teepee for as long as I could bear it. Which, I mean, I guess this is the part where she then is feeling like, okay, if I go up to Winn's ranch, he's my stepdad now, so I guess that's cool. He's got plenty of land. Plus, my mom's right there, so if it gets too cold or whatever, hey, I can go stay in the house and nobody's going to judge me for that. Isn't this, by Janelle's own standards, this is what she was talking about, was like, it separates the weak and the strong, the people who are cut out for it and who aren't cut out for it, this independence, this rugged individuality. She didn't even make it one night. She's like Macy on Naked and Afraid.
This is, she's not writing any best-selling books after this about her experience, that's for sure.
She wouldn't have lasted on Alone.
I know we talked about her Native American name.
Oh, yeah. What do you think it would be?
Well, did you come up with one? Because I feel really good about mine.
Okay. I don't really have one, but what?
You don't?
No. I was positing that because I was making the joke. Maisie has a very huge lammy, which we refer to as Mega Lammy down here in the studio. And she was trying to run around with her before we started recording. And so I was calling her Runs with Lammy. And then that made me think of Dances with Wolves. And then that was when I asked you, what do you think Janelle's
No, I was just
name
part
would
of
be?
an ADHD brain
It's the
spiral.
string. Yeah, that's the string of.
Well, I came
the
up
train
with
of
an
thought.
answer. Gardens with dogs.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Chooses the dogs.
Well, she doesn't earn one anyway, 'cause she only spent one night out there.
Yeah, not going to be here long. How about that? To be fair, she was trying to camp outside in Wyoming in November. It's not going to be very comfortable. So I don't know if she just wasn't ready for that like rude awakening of what was actually going to take place. She had kind of romanticized this living in the woods, living off the grid sort of thing that, hey, we're millennials. We get it. Who hasn't contemplated quitting their job and just running off and living in the woods. I can't say I disagree.
I'm worried I would have the same fate as her. I wouldn't last long.
I don't think so.
Okay, it gets creepy because now that she's at the ranch, Kody's dad is involved in the picture again. And Winn is just that kind of patriarch where he's looking out for everyone in his orbit. So he's got to get her married.
So he's trying to get Janelle to settle down with one of Kody's brothers. We don't know which one.
Which one?
I would like to know
I want to
which one.
know. She doesn't specify. Come on.
Well, I love that this implies that Winn was like, no, Kody's already married and he doesn't need another wife. Yeah. So I think we're good.
He knows that they want to live polygamy.
And he's like,
and that they have a close relationship with Janelle. And he's like, why don't you select from one of the other brothers that I have here for you?
Maybe that was a reverse psychology thing. If Janelle's mom was letting Winn know, hey, if you tell her not to go for Kody, she might go right for Kody.
But why is he suggesting one of his sons? Because again, he has married Janelle's mother.
Do we have to keep it in the family? Do you know anybody else?
Can we expand to anybody else?
I mean, he knows his sons the best. He doesn't really know a lot of other people. Winn's social circle runs pretty small.
I think he saw that she wanted to be out on the ranch, and that got him very excited, and he was ready to marry her off to one of his sons.
Oh, specifically one of his cowboy sons, not Kody. If you want to live on the ranch.
That explains it.
That's why.
I've got some coveralls for you, girl. Kody's old pair.
Yeah.
Never worn.
They still fit.
Tags are still on them. It was really sad to me that she approached marriage in such a pragmatic way. She doesn't want flowers. She doesn't want anything special. She doesn't expect romance. It's giving Gilded Age to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a business deal. It's a proposition. But maybe that is coming off the heels of she already had a failed marriage, basically. And so...
You're 22 years old.
Right?
I think you can spend a little bit more time searching for someone to spend the rest of your life with. But instead, she looks around and she's like, I don't know. Who do I know?
Who do I know who looks like he would be a good father?
Who I can have intelligent conversations with and who is emotionally intelligent.
Who's willing to get down on all fours for any game the kids dreamed up. Or maybe any game that Janelle dreams up. Perhaps.
I missed that sentence.
You missed that?
I
that
did.
was okay. It was rudely taken out of context when I'm describing it, obviously, because she's talking about when Kody would play with the children.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And how great of a father.
She had visions of where else she could use the limberness that she was witnessing.
Skill set that would carry over to something to Janelle's benefit, perhaps. She got the wheels turning. Yeah, I really thought that was something, though, to describe Kody as an emotionally intelligent man. I think Kody was
the best that Utah had to offer.
Okay, hold on. So I think he was in terms of manipulation. Mm-hmm. So, yes, he does have to have a good read on people. So I think that was a level of emotional intelligence. That's not really beneficial, though, if you don't have special things like empathy. Or little caveats like considering other people's emotions as well. I think Kody's very in tune with his emotions at this point because he didn't really have too many. He wasn't thinking about a lot of stuff.
He ain't thinking about Meri's feelings.
No, that's for sure.
Neither is Janelle.
You know, I kind of forgot about Meri.
They're hanging out one night and Janelle asks Meri if she could please just excuse herself from the room so that she could have a private conversation with Kody.
With your husband. Excuse me, Meri. Can I steal him for a minute? Is basically what just happened.
Trying to get the first impression rose. And she approaches Kody and tells him that she feels that she belongs in their family.
Cody's relieved to hear this because he is a married man. He can't be making moves on women. So it's good that they're approaching him.
Except for when he takes one out to lunch.
We seem to have forgotten how we got to this point. Because, there were a couple extra steps along the way.
I took her out to lunch and expressed my interest in her.
No, I didn't express my interest in her. I told her that she should be thinking about the interest of us both. Maybe float that. See what that does for you. Picture me on all fours, Janelle. See if that does anything for you.
I kind of think he's at the point of his marriage with Meri where he's just ready to marry someone else.
He was referring to his marriage with Meri so far as 3 wonderful years of monogamy, but we know that is not the case.
It was really 3 years.
That's what he said.
Man, he had to wait for Janelle to get divorced one of those whole years.
We'd been married for 3 years and had 3 wonderful years of monogamy.
Kind of over it, though.
Yeah.
There's no way. We're getting to the point, Meri, where we're going to be like one of those couples who believes in polygamy but never lives it.
We're all talk and no action when it comes to polygamy, and we don't want to be one of those couples. So if we're going to do it, we might as well go ahead and do it with my sister. Nobody better. The best Utah has to offer.
And Meri's a doormat, so she's like, sure. I don't really have anything that I feel comfortable voicing at this point because my walls have gone up and I don't feel safe. But if you want to marry her, I won't say anything about it.
I think that's what it was.
It's the impression he gives, right?
Kody took no opposition as approval. Meri didn't say anything outwardly that she was against it.
But also, we were at the point in our relationship where it probably would have been really uncomfortable for her to share an emotion like that with me, nor did she have the ability to express her emotions like that.
But I think she was pretty much good for it. Yeah, like I think we were ready.
Do you believe it, though? If he's supposed to be so emotionally intelligent, don't you think that he would have been able to pick up on the fact that maybe Meri wasn't enthusiastic about this?
Yeah, I think there's different levels and different categories of emotional intelligence and where that can be applied. I think Kody was using this to his benefit where he noticed that Meri is incapable of describing her feelings or expressing those emotions to me. So
I'll use that to my advantage.
I will ask her directly and she will not be able to address that. And so we can move forward now with her blessing. She seemed happy enough to welcome Janelle into our home.
And we're on to the romantic whirlwind of a courtship. Not really.
It was a paragraph and it was like 3 sentences.
They go on one date. After Kody works, what did he say, 15 hours, more than a 12-hour long day. It's pitch black out. All the restaurants are closed. And they have no other option than to just drive around aimlessly in the car because there's nothing to do.
Open the glove box, Janelle. I might have a ketchup packet or 2.
Should have gone to Roy Rogers.
For real. Mustard and relish. Okay, so the courtship is traditionally short. I like how Kody had to specify for second and third wives. He left the door open for Robin's to be very, very long because traditionally for second and third wives, courtship's very short. But yeah, to say they went on one date and then within 2 weeks they got married.
It was a proposal. It wasn't just a date. He puts a ring on her finger in the car. I don't know why that sounded inappropriate to me.
A lot of things happen in the car for Kody. A lot of firsts, a lot of special.
That. He's always driving around in the middle of the night.
The other part of this that was really standing out to me that completely goes unnoticed is that he had mentioned in passing too, we had a spiritual ceremony on another bitterly cold night in January. They originally proposed the date of Meri's birthday to get married, and they didn't mention that.
Okay, now I'm pissed about that.
Because that was hilarious.
But to know that they got married 2 weeks after they had this date.
Because it was like right after New Year's.
That they rushed it to the point that they were going to get married on Meri's birthday. Why? Why? It's only been 2 weeks. I think we could go another week. We could probably go maybe 4 weeks.
I think Kody knew he needed to close this deal. Because
can't let her think about it for too long.
I can't let her think about it because she's going to change her mind. So he needed to get an answer from her. So he forced that answer as quick as possible so she couldn't make a rational decision.
Well, that's evident because Janelle mentions how they never were alone together.
And then they had to go on their honeymoon. So now you have to figure out, you were barely friends before. And now you have to figure out, how do we be husband and wife when you're also still married to Meri too? So how are we exploring this? How are we navigating polygamy when we were barely friends to begin with?
Doesn't this just seem like a clusterfuck from the beginning? I'm not surprised that this went poorly between the three of them. She barely knew Kody, And she really, I mean, she knew Meri, but she was kind of just there.
Well, the scary part here, too, is where Janelle's talking about how she felt no closer to Kody than she had a week earlier. Well, yeah, marrying someone isn't going to be a fast track to emotional intimacy or deepening a relationship. She'd been married before, so how did she not know that?
That's normally why time is something that people use in relationships to get to know one another better.
That's a great factor.
To establish trust with one another. To become more comfortable.
Yeah, you get to see how this person navigates through different phases of life or large seasons of life or tests and trials and tribulations. Anything that you're going on there, you're going to see some differences of how this person reacts to things.
Is she just incredibly naive?
I don't think she is. So that's what's scary is when she was saying like, oh, it was so confusing how I didn't feel any closer to Kody a week after we got married. Well, that's not going to magically happen, though. If you thought that that was going to be the solution, it clearly was not.
It's funny to think about how Kody has mentioned he didn't ever feel vulnerable enough in certain relationships to talk about things like his liaison that he had that he's only revealed recently. What kind of conversations were they having with each other? Was there depth to it, or were they just talking about life?
Well, I think this is the point, too, where, because I guess if you're having those feelings, if you are Janelle and you're realizing maybe this isn't what I thought it was, maybe I made a mistake or something like that, I think Janelle's kind of backed into a corner at this point because she is alienating herself from some of her family members. There's estrangement now that's going on that she's trying to navigate because she has basically abandoned her LDS faith. So now some of her family members were not cool with that, and they've kind of turned a blind eye to this situation here. And then also that's just mounting more pressure onto the relationship, this new marriage that you have with Kody, because you can't say, oh, I made a mistake and I messed up, and then try to go back to these people because they're never going to let you live that down.
I mean, she could, but she decided to double down instead.
You could, but you could stay with him out of spite to prove everyone wrong.
For 30-something years.
Yeah. Not saying it hasn't been done before.
It only gets worse from here. You thought it was a bad start. Now she's living in Kody and Meri's house in the guest room. Like she's a tenant or a long-term visitor, and she just feels very uncomfortable.
Is this where the dogs sleep? As Aurora and Brianna would ask in the RV.
I'm not liking that she starts complaining about how Kody and Meri are super in love. You chose to pursue a marriage where you knew there was no love existing between you. You thought there was the potential for it to grow down the line, but you weren't in that phase of life together. You weren't even prioritizing having a romantic relationship with somebody. And then you're upset because when you're at their house together, he and Meri have this very obvious connection with one another that you don't have with him.
She sounded annoyed when she went to Kody and Meri's wedding, that they were like very much in love, lovey-dovey, giggly. It was like this immature sort of love that Janelle kind of rolled her eyes at. But then
how does she endure Christine then?
I don't know.
Christine and David.
Christine and David, yeah. Well, I guess she doesn't have to be involved in that. That's just something that's happening around her.
It's not her husband.
Not her husband. What I didn't like was that it seemed like they were attributing it to, oh, you know what the problem is? Me and Meri lived here first, so this was like our place, and now Janelle tried to move in, so that's weird. We just need to get a new place for all of us. This is when moving becomes a solution to solve our emotional problems. I think that's where we see the groundwork for that mentality here.
Man, there's a lot of messed up stuff in this chapter.
Well, just in rapid fire succession, too. It all hits.
She just is bulldozing past one red flag after another.
The biggest one being when she was talking about the level of independence that was so prominent in polygamy, and that she admired about the strength of these women who were choosing to live this lifestyle. Yet immediately she was talking about how she lost her entire sense of self.
Well, it sounds like it's because Meri was very vocal about how she wanted things done. And now, much like how she didn't want to be Robin, she's having to be Meri. You're having to do the dishes the way Meri wants to do the dishes. You're having to fold the clothes the way Meri wants the clothes folded.
Folded.
Also, just tell her, shut up, bitch. I'm not folding your clothes. I'll fold my clothes however I want. No? See, that's what you learn when you live with roommates. That's why you got to go to college.
Roommates.
You got to live on campus.
Good. Yeah, and I mean, I guess this is what was the other part that was confusing for me too, was when Kody was talking about how Meri didn't have the vocabulary or the emotional capacity to express any disinterest in him marrying Janelle, yet she was very quick to find the words to describe how Janelle was cleaning the kitchen wrong, or how she
should be living her life,
messing up, the cooking or the cleaning or whatever else was going on in the home. She was very quick to find those words.
But don't worry, because we have Christine on the way. We have wife number 3, and she's going to solve everything.
She's the Band-Aid. She's the glue that's going to hold this thing together, because, boy, we are teetering on the edge right now. But that'll be for next week. Chapter 3, Christine and Kody, a love story for the ages, as we know.
If you haven't checked it out, join us over on Patreon, patreon.com/survivingpod, where we are also doing weekly rewatches of episodes that remind us of these chapters. Maybe little stories that don't track to what was in the book. Maybe a fun little moment like Kody being forced to sing his and Meri's wedding song on the couch.
That was a good one. Got to relive it just like Janelle did. She saw the original show, though.
She decided not to be in the audience the second time.
Yeah, the original run. We also have another podcast, Surviving Reality. We just recapped the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives reunion episode, which is season 2, episode 11, because I guess they're holding on to those other episodes and packaging them up for a season 3 at a later date. TBD. We don't know when. You don't know when. I don't know if Hulu knows when.
But we do know that Welcome to Plathville is returning on July 22nd, and we will be recapping every episode of the new season over on that pod. Thanks for listening. See you next time.